What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chasers. I want to give a shout out to all of the members of my channel, and I got to do a roll call to give them a shout out, like I always do before each and every show. I want to welcome Kalan Jakala to the Green Gorilla channel. Leroy Honeycutt reporting for duty. I see you, my brother. Sherrod Martin, Ricky Dawson, Brother Love, Black Dog, NEU, Cedric Bowman, Truth 7360, BK Bowen Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile Adept, Seven Coast Dojo, Ronan Martin, Shop Talk Live, WPR1, Roguish the Billmonger, I Care, The Nameless Protagonist, Force Windu, Lady Miss Thing Green, BGS, Ibmore, and Marvin Battle. Thank you for being members of my channel, and also you too can become a member of the Green Gorilla channel. All you have to do is hit the join button next to the subscribe button, and you can contribute to keeping the channel up and going and to motivate me to give you some great and quality content. Now, also, it's imperative that you, if you can, to like the video and to share the video. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the button so you can subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you can be notified whenever I go live. And sometimes I go live at the drop of a hat, you know? And sometimes I just so happen to bring in a special guest at the drop of the hat. So I want to welcome my brother, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, to the show. What's up, Dr. Johnson?
What's good, man?
Ain't nothing cracker lacking, man. Just, doing this Texas thing right now.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, man. It's always good to rap with you.
How's Cali right now, man?
Man, Cali's good. I just haven't, I ain't poked my head up in a minute. I'm chilling. So when you reached out and said, we about to chop this topic up, I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, let's get it on, man. And the topic has to do with how can you protect black women when they consider themselves to be dangerous?
You see that?
And strong and dangerous, man. Like, how can you protect a group of people that, for all intents and purposes, are letting you know I got this?
You see that?
Hey, man, like, I'm strong and dangerous. You feel me? Like, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
You ever see, one of your guys, y'all in the club, and some other clown is acting up, and my partner like, just sit back, man. I'm gonna handle this fool. That's how they acted, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to any area or domain of social, political, or economic or family life, they're like, we got it.
Mm-hmm.
But then something goes awry. They don't take blame for it. They say, well, where were the black men? Y'all didn't do y'all job of protecting. So I'm like, in my head, and I'm like, befuddled in the brain. Like,
right.
Well, hold on. I thought you said you was dangerous. You were strong. You were a leader.
Uh-oh.
And you got this. And then the next thing you know, where were we? I'm like, well, wait a minute. I thought you kind of like told me that I had to take a chill pill. I had to like lay on back,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, we got another surprise. Gizest. Welcome, Keep It 100 to the stream. Well, keep it Pete. 100.
What the hell? Yeah, I'm gonna have to fix that. What's going on?
What's
going on, peoples?
Yeah,
like it, man. So we got the Three Musketeers in this joint,
Oh man, I just checked your video a few minutes ago. Keep It 100. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah, man. I've been wanting to do a video on protection for a minute. That video that I just did was more about, them criticizing one guy for doing too much and another guy for doing too little.
Mm-hmm.
And but it just came to me like towards the end of the video, like, what do you want this protection to look like? Yeah. So I haven't been, I just got off the phone and I haven't heard you guys speaking before just now. So you guys might have to get me
No,
caught up.
we ain't.
Again.
We just chilling. We haven't even started.
So look, what I want to do is briefly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this article, but I do have an article, right? And the article speaks to the issue of Black men not protecting Black women. And it gives you some insight into the Black female, the Black woman's perspective on what is the source of Black men not stepping up on protecting Black women. And see, men and women have a different orientation towards the world. We see events differently. We handle things differently. We perceive things differently. So while they would assume that we're trying to be patriarchal by asking for them to do some of the things we ask them to do, right? They would consider it oppressive. We would consider those very self-same actions to be protective. But they don't want that kind of protection. They want, to be quite honest, if I just had to give a broad overview of my position on it, you want a security force right there to be a bullet bag for you.
There we go.
But you don't want the advice that prevents the bullets from firing in the first place. So I want to stop the bullets from even getting to the point where they're flying. That's what I want. But you want somebody to step in when the bullets are spraying and to absorb them while you remain unscathed by events that you brought to fruition. That's not how reality works. And, you know, it's quixotic, it's idealistic. I think the position that they're taking is a feminist position, but it's also a patriarchal position that they're not allowing to occur. So I said this often, and I'll say it again. Women want the same equality politically and socially as men. They want the privileges associated with womanhood, but they want the responsibilities associated with neither role. Period. But you can't have it that way. That's not the way the world works. So the first thing I would like to do is I would like to share the screen, and you can chime in and stop me and say whatever it is you feel like you want to say as I read this. But first, initially, it's very important that we get some insight into their thinking. Now, I'm pretty sure you can see the screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it says, "Dear Black men, protect Black women." It's not saying, "Please protect Black women," or "Could you protect us, please?" Like, "We need you, Black men." It's it comes in the form of an imperative, a directive,
an order.
Does that not appear to be like a moral imperative? You know?
Well, you know, I think that there's some, I guess, social understanding that, you know, our duty by virtue of breathing, our birthright is, you know, one of them is to protect Black women, or to protect women, period. You know, there's a lot of duties handed out to men, or Black men in particular, and you know, there's nothing that we're guaranteed in return. It's just, you know, forget, you know, whatever you were planning to do with yourself and your life and your time and your efforts, forget that. That's secondary to your primary duty of serving the purposes of women. It's your duty. You can't even refuse it. Like, you know, it's something you're born to do. You're living just for that. That's what you're here for. That's your purpose.
And look, I would say this before I get into this article, though. This is what I'll say about it. I'll say this. I have a perfect duty to take care of my mother and to make sure she's protected. I have a perfect duty to take care of my children, my daughters and my sons, and to make sure, but I don't have any sons, but I have 2 daughters. So it's my duty to make sure that they are protected. And that comes in the form of advice. It comes in the form of physical protection when we're out in the public. I'm going to make sure that they don't come into harm's way. But those are my women. Those are mine. Okay? So I have some sort of familial connection with them, or even the friends I'm with. Okay. But I don't see how it's my perfect duty. I have an imperfect duty to protect women in general, but I can't go out and protect every fucking woman that exists. I can't do that. It's impossible. It's not a technical possibility for me to do that. And then it's not even in my interest to do that. I mean, 9 times out of 10, I will if I can, but like, why should I put myself in harm's way for some miscellaneous woman? I mean, it's impossible to do. So, having said that, man, let me get on into this, bro. So, they say this woman who wrote this article, her name is Shadell Bromell. I don't know who she is from a can of paint, but she took a stab at writing an article. So, I'm taking a stab at interpreting the article. Okay. So she says Black women not only face racism from the outside world, but are victims of patriarchy in their own community. Just as white supremacy inflicts harm on Black people, Black men pose the same incendiary threat to Black women when they neglect their plight for a patriarchal system. Okay, so it's automatically starting off with the idea that in the Black community, Black women are the victims of patriarchy. Mm-hmm. Now, we've already had discussions about this for quite a bit of time. Like, in what way are Black men patriarchal? We don't run or govern any institutions, not even the familial institution, in a wide variety of instances.
But wait. If I can interject just for a moment. I don't think most people really understand what patriarchy is.
No.
I think because of the way feminists, even in universities, have created this shorthand language, what a lot of these kind of people think patriarchy is any act that they consider sexist. But they don't understand what patriarchy is as a system in a given community. They don't understand it. So what she's basically saying is, she thinks Black men are sexist, and that somehow stands in for patriarchy. But she doesn't understand what patriarchy is, because as soon as you look the concept up and then reflect on African-American history, you don't see one. But if you just look for a sexist act, then that stands in for, and that's where they go with it.
Mm-hmm. I spoke on patriarchy in the last hour-long video that I did on Sunday. I spoke on patriarchy, and they say down with the patriarchy. That's the like you said, the feminist context of the word, in 2020. But patriarchy, just like when you say, matriarchy, or the matriarch of the family is, grandma or grandmama or mama or whoever. And what the definition of that, or the context they use that in, is the woman who took care of everybody, fed everybody, and was the head of the household. And the patriarch is just the male version of that. So a patriarchy is exactly what you're saying. It's the man in charge, the man taking care of everything, the man protecting, providing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They look at it as this oppressive force that they also want benevolence from, because there's a benevolent arm of patriarchy. Mm-hmm. Patriarchy protects men and women and children. Patriarchy builds society. Patriarchy creates safety within the society. And they think that, abusive men or violent men are synonymous with patriarchy, because, they control, women or children, or whatever the case may be. They, I said to many women, I said, these abusive men, these men that are out here doing things to women in general, like not just Black women, just women in general, these are not patriarchs. So you tying them to patriarchy. Patriarchy is women and children off the boat first. Patriarchy is, walk on the curbside when you're walking down the street and hold doors open and pull chairs, and all that chivalrous shit that you like is patriarchy. Mm-hmm. All of that shit is patriarchy. So there's a benevolent arm of patriarchy that women are just ignoring, because they want to contextualize patriarchy as some sort of oppression, when they don't realize that, the concrete that you walk on in the building that you're in, and the walls within that building, and the light switch and the gas that you turn on, all that shit is patriarchy. And if you want to say down with the patriarchy, all that shit goes away, because women don't build shit like that. All that shit was provided and sponsored by the patriarchy. Okay, so again, down with the patriarchy means all that shit goes away, and you go back to the wilderness with the trees and the forest and you know, the wilderness. You understand?
You get bathed in the river Styx with the nymphs and the fairy goddesses and shit.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean,
go back to that.
I mean, thank you, D-Rock Den. Thank you, my brother, for the donation, and I also want to give a shout out to Corner Store Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. But you know, look, let me just we got to get through the article though. You feel me? We ain't got to get through all of it, but we got to get through some of it, because this is what they are thinking. Okay, and then she goes on to say, in the first week of June, local activist Oluwatoyin Salua, and that's this woman here, okay, went missing in the Tallahassee area. Salua tweeted extensive details of the sexual assault she experienced that morning. The thread included details of her whereabouts, the assault, and a description of the abuser. On June 13, the activist's dead body was found alongside a road just 200 feet from her abuser's residence. The suspect, 49-year-old Aaron Glee, was arrested and eventually confessed to the crime. Okay? Now, many Black women like Salua spent these last couple of months fighting on the front lines against police brutality. In America, police brutality is the leading cause of death for Black men, according to the Los Angeles Times. Consequently, these protests typically solely highlight the unjust killings of Black men. However, Black women's obligation of defending and protecting Black men is not reciprocated in the same manner. They are victims of sexism, sexual assault, and homicides at the hands of Black men, and their undying allegiance to them above all else. Oh my God. So there's a lot to unpack there. Now, first of all, the leading cause of death for Black men is not killings, unjust killings, you know, by the police. But I mean, but it's one of the leading causes in relation to interracial violence, but it's not the largest form of violence that Black men are subjected to. And then this is the thing that really fucks me up about her phrasing here. She says that Black women out protesting is somehow defending Black men.
Yeah.
Black men don't see the shit that way. Like, you're not defending us from this violence.
Nope.
And every Black man knows this.
It's a shaming tactic.
Yeah, protest is not protection.
Like, every Black man knows that you going out and running your mouth and being loud and clapping your hands and rolling your neck and doing the motherfucking nay-nay is not stopping us from getting shot and killed by the police.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, if you flip that, you say, okay, well, Black men, if we go out there and we protest and we make noise after the woman is dead, they will still say we're not protected. So how does it work one way and not the other? I'm not protected in death. It's too late. It's like trying to put the fire out after the house is burned down. It's done. It's finished. You're not protecting me. The protection is too late. So speaking out against the thing is not protection from the thing. And that, you know, something I spoke on Sunday. You know, women think that making this noise on behalf of Black men is protection. It's not even, it's neither thing. It's neither one of the things that they're asking for. They're saying they want protection when they really want us to rescue them, but they're not offering us either thing. They're not protecting or rescuing us.
Well, but here's the thing, though. What people want to overlook, most particularly a lot of these women, is that there was always an exchange of resources between men and women. it was never obligatory just for the sake of being obligatory. There was an exchange. So for my protection came cooperation. For my sacrifice came companionship. You know what I mean? There was an exchange. By the time you get the onset of really second and third wave feminism, it basically gave women, the right to not put anything into the exchange, but still demand all of the traditional sacrifice extended by men. And so that's where we're at now. We're at a level, but it's snowballed. We're at a level of entitlement where it is an assumed good that you provide resources without any type of reciprocity. And that's really what we're looking at right now. They want to cherry pick out of the traditional dynamic. And I think, Gigi, I think you were the one that said it a moment ago in terms of, what they want to get out of it, what they expect from us, and yet have no responsibility to us. Now, I used to be in a relationship with a woman in BLM. And one time I was out of town when she was at a protest, and she said that a cop put his hands on her, and she was trying to figure out how to sue him and all of the rest of it. But it hit me at that moment. If I'd have been standing there and this cop grabbed her, who do you think she would have looked at first?
Oh, for you.
Exactly. Yeah. And if I don't immediately go deal with that, somehow I'm not a man in her eyes. But if I do, all black men know the potential reality of that. Now, it's one thing if we're protesting or whatever, but if she's in the cop's face, yelling and rolling her head the way Gigi described, which we have all seen on video or in person, is that protecting us or endangering us? And I'm talking also about black men who provide protection professionally at protest. I'm in dialogue with a lot of those brothers, the brothers with the red, black, and green on, who are doing security at the protest. And those brothers even tell me that the sisters at the protest will tell them to shut the hell up. They're going to do what they're going to do. We don't have to listen to you, but still expect those men to protect. So from the everyday brother to her boyfriend, to her husband, to the men who are actually assigned to protect at these protests, you have the same response from women being overarchingly, we're going to do whatever we want. Shut up, sit back. I call it the queen drone syndrome. You just need to provide protection on her terms when she says to. Other than that, shut up and let her do what she's going to do. Even if, and this goes back to what you were saying a moment ago, Marcus, right? That even if what she's doing is preventing her own protection. If I can't protect you in advance before the situation even, and that's the best protection there is. That's what a father provides a daughter, right? I'm preventing you from even getting in the situation. That's the best protection. But if I can't even do that, because you are the one that makes all the decisions, then how do you turn around and tell me I'm not protecting once you get into the situation?
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the crux of the matter, right? But there's another piece of this I think people overlook because they know that this is nothing more than performance. Like going out there and protesting and doing all of this, they know this is virtue signaling and grandstanding. That's actually what it is, as far as I'm concerned. And in relation to its connection to BLM, the kind of bait and switching that they do related to the kind of platform that they promote while at these kind of demonstrations of protest, right? Because what they do is they end up saying, well, while we're here riding for you, we still haven't contended with the issue related to black women, which is that black men are patriarchal. We need for you to understand and admit that and adopt our political program and submit to our ideology, which would then be a form of protection for them. So they, in their minds, protection, I think, also extends to them having their ideology accepted by men and for men to accept and submit to that ideology, namely that black men are oppressive, toxic, rapist, abusers. And the more that we realize this and promote this ideal, the more that we'll be protecting them. So that's complete bullshit to me because it doesn't square up with reality. But I think that they want us to reiterate their talking points. And you see a lot of men do this shit, right? I mean, I call it simp culture. It is what it is. But, the idea is that you have to accept their talking point and their orientation to the world. And then that way you could be actually protecting them. Or you got to say her name. That would be a form of protection. You know what I'm saying?
Without any data, without any empirical evidence of anything, you just have to accept it.
So before I start off again, though, I want to give a shout out to U.S. Michael Harrell. I want to give a shout out to Counselor Murray, Jay Jermaine. Thank you so much for the donations. I appreciate that, fellas. But back to the subject at hand, I just want to dig through it a little bit more. So she says, many Black women like Salua, I just went through that. According to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, women are more likely to be killed by a spouse than a stranger. Furthermore, non-Hispanic Black women are at the highest rate of homicide at 4.4 homicides per 100,000. Non-Hispanic Black women, right? As per the Violence Policy Center, 95% of homicides of Black women had perpetrators who were Black males. In addition, 69% of transgender women were Black, and deaths were intraracial. Okay? So, I mean, in other words, what they're saying is that Black men are killing them at the same rate that Black men are getting killed by the police. So, in other words, the biggest danger that women are exposed to is danger from Black men.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which black men? That's it. And I don't want to go there today, but I don't
want to go there today either. But see, this is the thing, though. See, it's one thing to talk about how women die at the hands of partners, but what never gets discussed is that women are also killing their partners.
Yeah,
that never becomes part of the conversation. And Dr. Johnson, you're an expert in this area, right? And so the very idea that men are just unilaterally, for no reason at all, because they have no power in society at large, or just turning over and abusing women because that's the only outlet that they have in order to express their power, right? It's absolutely fucking ridiculous, man. Like, I mean, how many times do we have to contend with this issue? What it does to me is it absolves women for all responsibility related to conflict and violence that happens in a domestic setting.
Absolutely.
Although we do have data which demonstrates that women are more likely than men to initiate violent encounters within the context of intimate partner relationships, whether relationships be male to female or whether they be female to female.
Yep. And
gay men, oddly enough, have the least amount of violence at all amongst the races. So apparently there's something that's missing, from this picture in relation to how it's portrayed and the kind of danger that women are subjected to in relation to intimate partner relationships. So, Doc, spit some game for it.
Well, I mean, first of all, this is one of the few articles I've seen where they've tried to use some data, but it's interesting the way they cherry pick it. And what you end up having to do, and most of us don't, and they anticipate this, is you got to end up going down the rabbit hole of how they're positioning the data. You know what I mean? And I don't have the article in front of me other than what I see on the screen. I vaguely remember this one, but I don't remember going through it. But I can tell you this. Let's put the shit in raw numbers. At the end of the day, when you talk about intimate partner homicide, you're literally talking about anywhere from 150 to 250 women per year, and slightly less men per year. So if you figure out 43 million Black folk, you have 150 to 250, roughly speaking, women and 100 to 200 men dying every year. And I think it's important to put raw numbers to it, because if you let them cherry pick the wording that they like to use, you'll walk away. And I've heard sisters say this: they'll walk away with this. Well, Black men are killing Black women in mass. Yeah. They're just slaughtering them in every turn. No, it's about 200 or so people per year out of 43 million. And the less than 1% men who are doing this somehow seem to reflect all Black men. Really? It doesn't even make any sense. And that doesn't even relate to the content, the information you just laid out in terms of intimate partner violence. They do initiate violence more often. They tend to use weapons more often than men. Men tend to do more damage, but they use their hands. So what, in essence, what tends to happen is more often than not, statistically speaking, she will initiate violence either, you know, with her own hands or with an item of some sort. He will respond. This is bidirectional. And in the Black community, bidirectionality is nigh equal, right? So that means that in terms of the conflicts that take place in intimate partner violence situations, it's equal between men and women, despite that statistically women are more apt to start the violence more often. But there's a response in relation to what she's initiated. But men will do more damage because they're stronger, right? And so that's the dynamic that plays out. When it gets to the level of homicide, it's not a frequent occurrence. As a sociologist brother, friend of mine he put it very poignantly, and I put it in a blog article I wrote about this. He said, you're more likely to get struck by lightning than to be killed by your intimate partner. And I thought he was joking until I looked up the number of lightning strike deaths. He was being dead serious. They are, but see, here's the deeper issue. They're using these talking points and this fear mongering because by paralleling white women, especially in the 60s and 70s, as white women framed their men as monsters to advance themselves and be seen as these kind of innocent bystanders, you got feminists like this that are using the same tactic because it's easier to use with Black men because the stereotypes of us, our monstrosity, you know, it goes back to slavery. Right. So they're using the same tactic to advance themselves in society and to be seen as more acceptable because they're with these crazy men that harm them to the degree that they point out. This is all a tactic. This is a political tactic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's not a surprise that it ends up with them demanding a Black female candidate of Joe Biden. You know what I mean? All of this is a political gesture to advance themselves independent, really, of the rest of the community, most particularly Black men. And I've never seen another group of women completely separate themselves from their own men in this fashion. And we can talk about why, because there's plenty of reasons. But at the end of the day, it can't fundamentally work. And that's the part they miss. You can't actually make your men out to be the monsters that white society has said they are, and then think of advancing yourself without them. It doesn't work.
So I'm going to go through a couple of more passages from this article, and then after that, I'm leaving it alone, okay? All right, so then she goes on to say in December of 2019, Khalil Wheeler Weaver was convicted of killing 3 Black women and attempted to murder a 4th woman in a span of 88 days. Sounds like a serial killer to me, not representative of most Black men. So going back to Marcus's argument, right? Sarah Butler, Robin West, and Joanne Brown were targeted by the young man through sexual arrangements. Ted Stevens, the prosecutor, says Weaver mistakenly believed the women's disappearance and death would go unnoticed. Furthermore, Weaver's absence of sympathy toward Black women led to the demise of 3 young ladies. Like, really? His lack of sympathy for Black, like, as if this man isn't pathological and has some sort of issue psychologically that needs to be contended with by a public health system that probably has let him slip by the cracks because there are no such services. You know, they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But we don't have these kind of services for men. But I don't want to get into that. So then Aolani Brown says misogynoir plays a big role in the relationship between Black men and Black women. She believes Black men are mistreated by almost every other group and turn their aggression to those who they believe are inherently below them.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that's bullshit.
I'm a victim of sexual assault. All experiences have involved Black men. In these instances, I felt completely violated by the same men that I fight for on a daily basis, says Aolani Brown, a public relations student from Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
That's an old argument.
There's more. Brown addresses how Black women feel compelled to neglect fully healing from their personal afflictions because of their devotion to the wellness of their community. So in other words, this is what this shit spells out to me, right? And before I get into that, I want to give a shout out to all of the brothers who have just recently donated. I want to give a shout out to brother Dennis Sterling. How you doing, brother? Brother counselor. I want to give a shout out to Atif Shakur. I want to give a shout out to Ab Media and also to Anthony Cooper. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your kind and generous donations.
Real quick, I don't want to sidebar, but I just want to know, and I addressed this before, is with all this fighting for black men that black women are doing in the names of the Black Lives Matter organization, all the money that they're collecting, right? Since they're so concerned about the well-being of black men, where's this money going to? Is it going to the well-being of black men? Because, put money on it. Don't put your talk on it. Don't put your signs on it and all that bullshit. Where's the money going to? Because from what I understand, it's not going to any causes, or at least somebody could show me something. It's not going to any causes directly connected to the well-being of black men. Although we fight for black men every day, okay. When you collect that "we fight for black men every day" money, with what black men are you spending it on? What well-being services? What services are going back to black men for their well-being? How are we building up black men in real life? Not just talk, not just protest, right? Not just, like you said, virtue signaling and stunting for the gram and the media and all that bullshit. Where's the dollars and cents going to the well-being of black men? The same ones that you want to protect and provide for you. Where?
Yeah, that's a very good question, man. Because
I don't expect you guys to answer me, because I doubt I doubt anyone, one of us. We can guess. You know what I'm saying? But I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
No, man. That's the $1 million question, though, because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
It's the $1 billion question. $1 billion.
So, I want to also give a shout out to AP again. He wants. Look at this. Is what he says. He wants this to be seen. Look, and I'm gonna let him. Hey, look. I'm gonna let him say it. The money is going to the Asian nail shop that a black man unsuccessfully tried to keep them out of. Ooh-wee.
Yep.
Yeah, you remember that ordeal, right? Where there was a guy
Absolutely.
who went to an Asian nail shop, and he chastised the owner of the shop or the management there, who had abused the black woman, and he wanted to boycott the establishment. And then you should have seen the line of these black women who, I guess, it kind of, Marcus Aurelius, appear to be right, even though I contest him on this issue at times. That like people just only work in their own self-interest. They only do what's best for them. It was convenient for them to walk over that black woman and that black man's efforts to protect that black woman from those owners. And they went right back to it like a moth to a flame because it wasn't in their political purview to worry about it. That was that.
Yeah, but remember, before he did that, when you had, and there were a number of these instances nationally that took place where you had Asian men in these stores, getting into physical altercations with these women. The first thing we heard yet again was black men don't protect. So that brother went in and did it. And the initial and the response from black women, from many black women, especially the ones at that particular store,
yes,
was we want to do what we want to do.
And look, that's the problem with all of this, right? So, in my viewpoint, but by the way, I want to give a shout out to Jerome Bostic and Joseph Moreau for hitting me up on the Cash App, and please support the channel, the Green Gorilla channel, if you can. But support your scholars. But having said that, and look, this is just how I think about it, right? I can't save a motherfucker from their own ignorance and poor choices, bro.
Nope.
I'm just gonna keep it real. Like the best I can do is give advice the best I can. But since we live in a free country, and part of resisting against the patriarchy entails not having to listen to shit a man has to say, right? So the best I can do is give my advice and say, look, I don't think you should do that. But then, their response is going to be, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And if I fuck up, then you got to clean it up. So, look, women want ideal conditions in an unideal world. So they want to terraform a world that makes them feel comfortable and safe at all times and at every turn. But that's just some naive shit. I mean, look, this is how I see it, right? That's like me being able to prevent a crack user from crack addiction, an alcohol drinker from alcoholism, like a wayward kid from the results of delinquency, or a meth user from meth addiction, a fornicator from STDs, you know, and a naive and an unchaperoned woman from a world that's cold and nasty. The world is cold and nasty, man. That's how it is. Now, if you want to remain safe from it, and the fucked up thing about it is men are more subjected to violence and abuse than are women of any demographic.
Yes.
Period. But somehow gets swept over. You know, like, well, we're not going to pay attention to that because, you know, it's not about you guys. It's about us. Okay,
or
well,
LGBT or trans.
But, you know, the funny shit is this, man. Look. Women want protection, like you said, Dr. Johnson and Marcus, man. They want protection without listening to the people that have the ability to protect them. That's the craziest shit about this. So I say, just imagine it, right? You're the most famous, like you're Whitney Houston, and I'm your black bodyguard. I'm not Kevin Costner. I'm just a Negro bodyguard, right? You hire me to protect you. But I can't fucking protect you if you're constantly not following the protocol of protection. Like, okay, where's Whitney? Well, she just sneaked off a fucking again. Next thing you know, she's getting fucking cornered by some creeps in a fucking alley somewhere, but all because she wanted to go off. Fuck, I don't need the fucking bodyguard. I don't need him.
But that becomes your fault.
Like, you should have known that I was gonna.
Exactly. Yes.
Man, look here, man. The most, like, even in the Secret Service, you have to listen to the very persons who are going to protect you and that you want protection from. You have to listen. There is no protection without listening. It's called a signal error. It's called a lack of communication. I'm reminded of Cool Hand Luke. What we have here is a failure to communicate. We're not communicating properly because you feel like you don't have to communicate. You can just meander here and there like a fucking lemming going back and forth to and fro, you know, and there's no danger. You remember the old video game Frogger?
Yeah.
You can just jump back and forth on the fucking road. Don't have to look out for traffic. You don't have to look left or right. You can just hop out there and everything's going to be all good because you're a lady and you're supposed to be ideally protected. Look here. Listen to what the fuck men are telling you. That woman, like, for example, that woman who got hurt doing Black Lives Matter. Listen to what she had to say, bro. This is what she had to say. And it's crazy as shit to me. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I can't wrap my fucking head around it. But you see that? These same niggas I'm risking my life for are the same niggas who are convinced they are stealing away my innocence or jewel, not knowing that I'm standing on a rock. Therefore, I can never be broken or robbed.
Okay. Wait, what?
This is the same woman who got killed at a Black Lives Matter protest. So it sounds like to me, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful of this woman's legacy, her memory, none of that. But don't you think if she had an acknowledgement of the fact that it was unsafe for her to be roaming out there by herself, meandering back and forth, going to and fro, thinking everything's good, thinking she's safe, don't you think it would have been wise for her to have been chaperoned or been attended to or to been in concert with men along with her while she was out there engaging in the activity she was engaged in? But she forsook the necessity of having a man there. This is the problem. This is the problem we're having with these women. They think that the ideal conditions that they desire should obtain, and that therefore they're subjected to patriarchy because they're subjected to danger in a dangerous world. There's fucking putting the cart before the horse, man. The reality is the world is a fucking cold and a nasty place, and men know the dangers that exist from violence because we're more subjected to it than any other group of people, and we can pretty much signal out that motherfucker looks like he's on some shit. Let's move.
Let me ask this: where have we seen a society of women thrive with no male protection?
Never.
See, what I'm getting at is this very idea is problematic, and if you really want to get to the core of how far it goes, this is where I actually advocate looking into fiction, be it literary or television or film, and see where their imagination takes them. I don't know if either one of you are watching Lovecraft Country right now.
I haven't started. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm just going to describe one scene. And this is a scene that Black women on social media are cheering and jumping up and down over. And it's a scene where you have this middle-aged Black woman who has found her voice and her strength. But the way this is articulated, right, is she is in this magical Amazonian African space being taught sword fighting. And there's nobody but other women around her. She has like half a day's sword fighting training. And then from there, she and maybe 30 other Black women like Leonidas go up against an endless horde, get this, of Confederate white male soldiers. This group of middle-aged, overweight Black women with swords in this mystical, symbolic African space are literally ripping apart Confederate white male soldiers left and right.
With guns?
They have guns? Yes, the soldiers have guns. The women have swords. And to a man, all of the Confederate men are dead. So when you look at this kind of imagination about what it is they want to do and what it is they see themselves as, and the fact that there are no men present, because the whole series, whether you're in Korea, whether you're dealing with white women, whether Black women, it's this kind of pan-feminist, pan-racial feminist kind of feminism, right? But this idea kind of illustrates, because the series is been pretty much written by a Black woman, Misha Green. This is the kind of imagination for the last really 50 years we've seen these women kind of getting, and this is what they want. This idea of an Amazonian space of ultimate independence and power that does not rely in any way, shape, or form on a man. And this is where money comes into it. The whole notion that was picked up in the 1980s of I don't need a man, I have a job, or even I have welfare. I have resources that don't require his presence. All of that is designed to promote this idea that you can thrive without your men. Now, my only question I pose is if that's the institutional response, if they've been able to have just the trappings of middle class access, as long as they're willing to abdicate their men, what happens when those resources are withdrawn?
Well, shit, they come back like you ever heard that? You heard of Soul to Soul, right? The old school little
back to life. Back to reality.
But here's the problem. We've had 2 to 3 generations of women who've not seen anybody lead their household but other women. And even when you started out talking about Big Mama earlier on, what we don't talk about is her husband who died 20, 30 years ago and left her the house she's still living in now. Right? We don't talk about the fact she's still living off his pension. It's just like Raising in the Sun. He never existed. This is all about female power. But you're talking about women who've seen 2 to 3 generations of female-headed households who do not understand masculinity, other than the extent to which they seek to imitate it, but they don't understand it, and they do not know how to relate to men other than seeing them as drones and functionaries.
You know what, Doc? Like this Lovecraft Country thing, man. This fanciful imagining of mythical warrior African goddesses.
I need you to watch it, brother. I need you of all people to watch this. But go ahead.
Yeah, man. Send me. I ain't got that. I don't.
Well, I'm gonna see what I can send you. I'm gonna ask BGS. He probably has a better connection on that. But you need to see it. You of all people.
But look, I just wanted to chime in really quickly. Like, first of all,
this out. I haven't.
You borging out.
No, I was gonna say, Gigi. Can you hear me, Gigi? I can send you I can send you some links where you can stream that. Yeah. But yeah,
Okay.
that sounds like some Dora Milaje shit to me. Like,
Oh, it is, and that's the perfect example for what I'm talking about as a phenomenon, right? The Dora Milaje. Even though in the comic books they really wasn't more like you see the president has his own private security service. That was all the Dora Milaje ever were, and he was able to have sex with them if he so chose. They were kind of his wives too. That was it. But by the time you get to the movie, they're his whole military. You know what I mean? That kind of reimagining of women as warrior men dominating other groups of men. If you sit down and watch the Panther movie, that's all they did. They dominated men, white men, black, it didn't matter. They dominated men throughout the whole. So I'm just saying, all of that fiction really gives you a chance, even if it's just watching which women support it. So the women that write it and the women that support it, it tells you a lot about what they're actually imagining and what they want to do and how they want to be. And how they want to be, according to these narratives going back decades, is they want to imitate male power and dominance.
but there's a paradox there. But go ahead, continue.
No. The only thing I wanted to say about that is, I'm really appreciative of your archetypal renditions of masculinity, Dr. Johnson, man, because, I like Joseph Campbell. He's like this archetype in the tradition of Carl Jung. And I think that, human beings or storytellers, that's just what they do. They tell stories. I mean, philosophy is good, but imagery and storytelling leaves a more firm imprint on the brain than, terse logical narrative or discourse, right? And so these stories, I mean, it's one thing to tell a story in which you have strong warrior Black women, but it's another thing to forget the entirety of the history out of the well springs from which this kind of iconography and this warrior spirit, Africanness comes from. Like, what about Ogun? Ogun is the warrior god. Now, he may have a female counterpart, but there's always complementarity in relation to the pantheon of gods. What they're doing is they're reimagining through patriarchy theory because they want to overcome it conceptually, right? Or ideologically. They're imagining themselves as warrior princesses toppling the patriarchy. But what you don't understand is that this is some white shit, all from the mind of white women who don't like their daddies. They're fucking misfits. And Black women have adopted this shit and they begin to reimagine themselves in the role of white women.
But
I was just gonna say that has nothing to do with African culture at all. Because the most powerful in Yoruba, the Yoruba pantheon of gods, Shango is the shit. He's the strongest and most feared deity. Okay, then you get all of the other deities and the Orishas that come along with it. You get Oya or what is it? Oshun and all of these other goddesses and shit like that. But there's always complementarity, But we don't have any room or space for that anymore. It's like they're imagining themselves as being victorious in some sort of psychological architectonic battle. In the end, it's going to fail because they don't have the power to pull it off, man.
But dig this. But here's the paradox. If you let them do it, if you let them play the role that they imagine themselves playing, then they'll tell you that you're weak for letting them do it. They'll tell you that Black men are weak. They got Black women on the front lines fighting these battles. Why aren't the Black men on the front lines? Why are the Black men hiding behind the Black women? We're not strong. We're not independent. We're not warriors. Blah, 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 blah. This is what they'll do. So on one hand, they'll watch TV and they'll get gassed up by that shit that they'll put on TV, telling them how strong they are and how much of a warrior princess they are until the guns go off, bro. Until the guns go off. And then when the guns go off, niggas ain't shit. Niggas are weak because they got us on the front line. Why are we on the front line? You supposed to be our protectors. Wait, we thought you wanted the front lines. I had a young girl send me a photo. I think of, I don't know if it's the Panthers or something where they had the women in front, and the guy was like, nobody stand in front of the women. Because I remember once upon a time it was, oh, if you put us in the back, then you're making us subordinates.
Mhm.
Okay, but if we put you up front, then we're hiding behind you. What the fuck do you want? What the fuck do you want? Do you
Well,
want leadership? Do you want the front, or do you want to be in the back?
no, I think what they want is to be able to completely control. See, that the whole notion that you just raised, the whole dynamic is a shaming tactic, right? Because ultimately they do want you to sacrifice your life for her, but they still want to be in a position of authority, even if it's just symbolic, to make sure that they control the dynamic. So the shaming is really to try and get protection out of you without having to concede to your direction, your
Absolutely.
capacity to lead. They don't want to concede anything. It really comes down to, and this is something BGS said, a couple of years ago. It comes down to a degree of fealty, but that fealty is also tied to a willingness to follow her. And this is something that I've seen in the mainstream, and I've also seen it even amongst the quote unquote conscious community, right? The same kind of, like, there's a famous talk that Julia Hare gives on one of Tavis Smiley's, state of the race, moments. You can find it on YouTube quite readily. And she gives a brilliant speech about how people, about education and Black kids and how they're being treated. It's brilliant. But there's a particular point in that speech where she talks about the roles of Black men and women. And in a particular way, she talks about Black woman as the queen of the universe and so on and so forth. But notice when she gets to the man, she doesn't describe him as the king of the universe. She describes him as the warrior. Now, looking at it symbolically for a moment, where's the complementarity Gigi just mentioned? You got a queen, but she doesn't have a king counterpart, because a king is somebody a queen answers to. But she has a warrior. A warrior is not on her level. A warrior is her functionary. So yes, he protects, but he protects at her behest. He doesn't tell her what to do. So that dynamic to me is an indication of how they envision themselves and how they see themselves in relation to Black men. You are here to protect. You are here to give your life, if need be, for her well-being, but she doesn't have to listen to you. She doesn't have to talk to you. She doesn't have to consult with you, because you are beneath her. This is what I mean by when I talk about the concubine serf or the concuserf. You're beneath her. Your job is to provide sexual pleasure, semen when necessary, and service, whatever that means, including protection. It is not to advise her, give her direction, give her counsel, unless asked. But even then, it's under very strict kinds of guidelines, because if you step out of your role, you're called a misogynist, you're called all these other things. These are all shaming tactics, and they're not based on power. They're not really based on real power. They're based on implied power, which is really the shaming tactics, as a way of keeping you in your role. What we're experiencing right now in society, though, empirically and economically, is actually a breaking down of the structures that have allowed for that implied power to work. We're breaking down all of those kind of structures: the mass poverty, the mass unemployment, the homelessness, the mass evictions, all of those things that they're trying to stave off best they can until they can get a president in there that'll make things back the way it was, which is virtually impossible. All of these things are really being put in place to prevent feet from hitting the ground again, where reality has to be dealt with. And it's happening anyway, even though they're trying to sidestep it.
So before we go on, I want to give a shout out to Bishop. Thank you, my brother. I want to give a shout out to Man Friday, 757 prime time. And also I want to give a shout out to, Sherrod Martin, Mr. Wonderful. I want to give a shout out to all y'all in the chat. But you know what, man?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say something behind what he said. I forgot what comedian said it, but he said the queen ain't nothing but the king's bitch.
Oh, that's Patrice O'Neal all day.
Yeah. So they have to clarify. Okay, we can't call them queen. I mean, we can't call them kings. We got to call them warriors, because if we call them kings, then we're back where we started. So go ahead, man.
But I just wanted to drop this because, again, Gigi, I really want you to watch this. If you watch Lovecraft Country, you get to see the Black goddess in her full power. You do not see a male god. There is no Shango. in the dynamic. It's
I'll check it.
all her.
I'm gonna check that out just because I wasn't gonna look at it,
You
but
already know
I'll check
what you're gonna get, bro. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
How many episodes do I gotta see before I I don't want to watch the whole shit? How many episodes deep I gotta watch
Nah,
for it
man.
to smack me?
We gonna have to talk, but
But you know what? I'm a fan of Edgar Allan Poe. I'm
okay.
a fan of Lovecraft. Like, I like cosmic horror, and I like what it represents. I mean, ultimately, it represents the idea that, in the grand scheme of things, man is insignificant. He's like a speck of dust, and like powers greater than him, they have no empathy. They can't even relate to him. He's like a fucking roach. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a perspectival, kind of perspective or worldview about where humanity stands in relation to the cosmos, right? But I don't know what this Lovecraft country is about, other than from what you're telling me, that it's chock full of feminist talking points. In particular, it's chock full of, anti-black misandric and probably anti-white male.
It's definitely that, but it's also merged with a little bit of African American history. So it actually takes you an episode or two to realize the kind of feminist underpinnings. So it looks like the very first episode, you might even walk away, feeling that black companionship that the community knew at least up to the 1970s. You might even feel that. But as you continue to go, you start to see the agenda. It's this kind of pan-racial feminism. You'll see it.
But you know what? This is what black men like. That's why I made this video called "The Malleus Maleficarum."
Yes, sir.
And I joked about it on one.
Excellent work, brother. Excellent work.
Right on. So go check that video out. So, and also I want to give a shout out to Roderick Jackson. Thank you so much, my brother, for the donation, man. Any help, man, helps me out in order for me to provide content for y'all on an ongoing basis, man. I really appreciate that donation. Man, the way I see it, all of this, man, is moving in a direction to where the natural consequences are going to ensue at some point. Like, all of this fanciful, imaginative posturing and posing is feet touch ground, man. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, feet touch ground. Mm-hmm. That's what it does, man. Air hit lung. That's just how shit goes, man. And so sooner or later, these women are going to realize who are actually in control. And I'm not even saying black men are in control, because we live under a system of white domination, bro. Mm-hmm. And so they don't understand the ways in which they're being utilized as pawns to fulfill a political objective that they're not even the beneficiaries of in any substantive way. So at the end of the day, if they get too rambunctious and too obnoxious, these guys are going to hit them with the Malleus Maleficarum, the witch's hammer. They're going to hit their ass.
Listen, that's fine with them. Check this out, and I'm gonna say some real dark shit.
Yeah,
let me tell you something, bro. I've said it in our videos that I've done in the past with you, and I've said it on Facebook. Only men like us care about, the progress of the black community and these types of things. That's why only we talk about it. You don't hear women talk about that. They talk about their shit. They talk about their issues. Their behavior is reflective of that. So if the whole shit falls apart, that the black community falls apart and they suffer under, white supremacy, this and that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to them, is what I'm saying. Like, everything that we're losing our minds, like, yo, it's going in this direction and we trying to stop it from doing this, and the ship is gonna sink. They don't give a fuck about that. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about that. Okay. At the end of the day, the only things that matter to them is what suits them personally and immediately. That's it. That's it. That's why you got a bunch of chicks on OnlyFans right now getting money, and later they'll regret it. These women live in the moment. So we're talking about futurist shit, and they don't give a fuck about that. They don't give a fuck about building anything. You know, they you know, I don't care what they say on the internet. There's no idea that there's the racial loyalty shit. Like that's it's non-existent. There's no racial loyalty in collective black women. That's not their plan. They don't care about any of that. They if the white man don't serve them, they'll go to the next group. It doesn't fucking matter. You understand? If the Asians, if the Chinese take over in the future, in the Chinese, look, you know, I don't want to make this a Pan-African discussion, but even over there, where those black women over on the continent are sucking Chinese dick, bro. At the end of the day, whoever is running the show, that's who they will refer to. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter.
But you know, here's what's confusing. There is a sense of race loyalty, but we have to understand the way race is being defined. See, black women are synonymous with blackness, not black men. So when you talk about, for example, the needs of black men politically, there is no conversation about that, because it's assumed that if whatever black women are talking about somehow encapsulates the needs of black men as well, even though black men aren't consulted and often haven't even really learned how to articulate their own political needs outside of black women. I mean, we're mostly raised by women. We're mostly taught by women in schools all the way up through PhD. You know, we don't really conceptualize ourselves outside of that framework. So what I'm saying is there is a sense of race loyalty with those women, but their race loyalty is actually solely defined by them, for them, and to them. You know, you're an implied kind of addition. You know, black men are just implied. It's expected that you serve and you play your role, but you're not consulted in any serious way. Your deaths are usable. I mean, that helps the agenda, but that's about it. So in that kind of dynamic, when you say they have no race loyalty, you'll have women saying, well, look what they're doing in the streets. Look at all the protests. You're ridiculous. Marcus, you don't know what you're talking about. And she's only right to the extent that race is defined solely in terms of how black women articulated amongst themselves, to themselves, and for themselves. And the symbolic usage of black men stands in for any kind of real, sincere connection to black men. See, they haven't even really listened to black men. And you know that because when they start to, especially when they come to places like YouTube, they're shocked. When they come to Gigi's channel, they're shocked. When they listen to you on Facebook, they are shocked. Oh my God, how are these black men talking this way? Why are they so angry? Sounds to me like the way white people used to describe us in the 60s. Why are they so angry? Yeah. You didn't listen to black men saying you haven't listened to them. Anyway, yeah.
As far as the
wait.
Go ahead,
brother. You know what that shit is? Marcus, explain. Dr. Tia Sanjay, you know what that shit is, right?
What's up?
I give you two letters. RH. Racial hypergamy.
Oh, absolutely. But you know, just understand that when they, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying at the end of the day, all that shit is racial hypergamy. They get in where they fit in with the system, and they're gonna get whatever goodies and crumbs they can snatch off the table. Bottom line. But yeah, you know, that's a solution, I guess. You know, that's a strategy. We'll see how it pans out. But you know, my guess is that it ain't gonna work for long because it's all predicated upon how nice they play. But they ain't playing nice. These women, like it. That's why I talked about earlier. I had a discussion about cancel culture. I had a discussion about how the Harper's letter was a warning being issued to, you know, like the radical parts of the left, how they were becoming incalcitrant, how they were becoming indignant and self-righteous and zealots, where they weren't willing to engage in dialogue with others. They're not working well with others. And like there's this shaming and guilting tactic that they're using. That shit cannot last. Yeah, you don't guilt people out of power. It just never happened. And black men are like, fuck y'all with this bullshit. Like, you're shaming us. You're portraying to the world that we are what white people portrayed us to be in 1915 when D.W. Griffith came out with the fucking Birth of a Nation. Like, how long do you consider us willing to accept that kind of depiction of our humanity. Like, how long do you think we're gonna sit back and take this shit while you berate us in front of the world? At this point, I'm saying to black women, if I had a message to give to black women, the longer you do this, the more black men are going to say fuck you and let you fall off a cliff. I'm just keeping that. That's some dark shit.
And that goes back to Dr. Tommy Curry's notion of subculture of violence theory. The way black women in many instances see us, the way they articulate who we are to the world and amongst each other. Because don't sneak into some of these social media pages that are strictly for black women. And listen to how they talk about black men. I mean, I can't tell you how much evidence I've had brothers send me. But at the end of the day, that perspective is based on what Curry describes as the subculture of violence theory. It's theory pulled from racist white scholarship, some of which, if you really want to trace it back to the 19th century ethnologists, you can. But they pull from that uncritically and put that in the literature. And then that somehow retroactively frames who we are. And that's the beginning point of the dialogue. If there is a dialogue, that becomes the beginning point. And we have to work our way out of a bucket to try and prove we're not monsters in the midst of having these conversations. That's what ends up happening.
Yeah,
and it's ridiculous.
You know, it's like starting off geometrically, like, okay, well, here's like a point, and here's the definition of a point. Here's a line. Here's what parallel means. Here's what perpendicular means. And axiomatically, they're able to draw all of these conclusions, you know, predicated upon what they consider to be like these foundations, these, you know, the elements of geometry, man. Like, no, y'all, fuck your geometry. They're doing planar geometry. We need to come in with some motherfucking, you know, different kind of geometry. And that's why it's important for black masculinists and black male study scholars to be there to challenge and check this. Now, initially, black men had no problem with checking this shit. After the last 2-3 generations, black men have become so soft to where they won't say anything or check any of these theorists or these women saying these kind of things. But I think that's changing, though. I think black men, like, there's a cadre of young black scholars, and they just don't give a shit anymore.
Well, I mean, a lot of these men were raised by these women that we're talking about.
Yeah.
They were raised by these women that we're talking about. So, I mean, you know, if you're a kid born in Saudi Arabia, I can teach you Islam. You'll think that, you know, that's the religion. If you grow up here, same thing with Christianity. But if I teach you black feminism, and that's what you grow up around, and you grow up around a bunch of women talking that, then you'll grow up with that as your religion. That will be your religion.
Yeah, it's an ideology. It's a worldview. It's a paradigm. It's a perspective. And, you know, the black manosphere doesn't give a fuck, though. You know we don't care. So we're going to be brutally honest. We're going to tell things from our perspective. We're going to lay the hammer down the way we see it. And you don't like it, it is what it is. But I don't see why I should, and I've said this before, why I should align my interest with the interest of people who have no respect for me, who have no honor for me, and who do not want to see me do well. So, I mean, you know, having said all that, I want to give a shout out to Rob Sawyer, and I also want to give a shout out to Black Sigma, and I also want to give a shout out to Ricardo Rodney. Thank y'all so much for your contributions. But look, if black women want protection, it's not going to come from me in a relationship in which I'm just a bullet bag or a drone who has to, you know, unquestioningly follow your directives. I'm not doing that for anybody. I don't operate like that. So if it's good enough for you to be free and to make your own ideas about what you should and what you shouldn't do, I'm free to do the same. After all, they say it's a free country. I don't believe it is, but you know, they say you can do what you want to here. So I'm gonna do what I want to here. It's just that fucking simple. So any closing remarks, gentlemen? Like, you know, I ain't got nothing else to say. I do want to see that Lovecraft Country though, so if you can give me the hookup on that, I would like to see it, and then, you know, kind of chop back and forth.
Oh, brother, you ain't gonna be able to stop. You ain't gonna be able to stop commenting on what you see. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Just like when I, yeah. You want to go first, Doc?
Nah, man. Well, look. All I'll say is that at the end of the day, this can only be combated by men who are willing to say what we've been shamed into not saying. Because as Marcus pointed out, we're not only raised by the very women we're talking about, but again, I pointed out earlier, we're also educated by them. If you go through K through 12, over 90% of the teachers are female across race, and they're mostly white women. You go to college, the majority of the students, the staff, and the faculty are women. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we're raised in a context where we see things from women's standpoint. You all have a filter. I'm really posing this to both of you, Marcus and Gigi. No matter what you've learned to respond to over time, you know when you're in a given situation, based on how you've been conditioned, you can anticipate how women will view what you're going to say or the situation you're in. You know how to see it, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Now, they don't often even remotely know how to see things from men's standpoint. This is something you hear about in Kevin Samuel's show damn near every day. When women call in, they have no imagination whatsoever about how men see them. But we've been trained to hear women's voices in our head. We've been trained to see the world from their perspective. Now, that doesn't mean we agree. And some brothers actually challenge that. But most of us have been trained to see it and to prioritize their worldview in our behavior, in our engagements, in our relationships, in our political actions, you name it. We learn to anticipate their feelings and perspectives. They don't have to learn that about us, which is why they have no idea how to engage men whatsoever. They don't even know what it means to respect the man. They don't even know how that presents because they've never had to in any kind of structural way. Maybe an individual here or there, a grandfather, but that's different from actually coming up in a structure where the respect for men has a place in the system of that given society. They don't know how to do that. So in the dynamic, if we're going to get anywhere to some kind of point of still functioning as some kind of community, that's going to have to come from unapologetically outspoken men. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, I agree with you, Doc, on that, man. And thank you for joining me here, bro. I really appreciate your contribution, man. You didn't have to do this, and I thank you for doing it, bro.
Oh, no, anytime, man.
And Marcus, there's a guy out there, man, looking to find out where you are. And look, most of y'all, man, look, y'all know Dr. Johnson's channel. If you're at my channel, you probably know. But go check out Dr. Tiasan Johnson's channel. He has beautiful content. I ain't going to even say it's great. It's beautiful. So go check out his content, man.
But
and there's somebody looking for your content. They need to know where to find you on YouTube or Facebook or elsewhere. So they're looking to get into contact with you.
No, I got you. I'm Keep It 100. It's exactly how you see it spelled on the screen. Yeah, it's exactly how you see it spelled on the screen. YouTube.com/Keep It 100, just like that. One word. I was gonna say, following Dr. Johnson's words just now, that women never had to learn our viewpoints of it. They never had to. Yeah, especially even outside of the conversation we're having, even when it comes to their their everyday day-to-day life, we have to learn them. It's kind of like how black people have to learn white people. And white people don't really have to learn us.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Because we live in their shit. They don't live in ours. But when it comes to women, like we have to engage women. We have to study women, because women are the ones that they'll accept our engagement or they won't. So we have to figure them out. They don't have to figure us out. Not to be with us or whatever. And I'm talking about most guys. You know what I mean? When it comes to marriage, however, it might change, but because things are the way they are now, because they refuse to learn us and engage with us that way, the only thing they can do is shame. Women are mercenaries. You know what I'm saying? Especially black women. There's a mercenary nature that's going on here that I described earlier. It's not about, like I said, building or any of that type of stuff. It's more about, you know, I'll be with the motherfucker who serves me. Let me tell you, if white women wanted black women, they'd have them. If white men wanted to take black women away from black men, if they really wanted them like that, they'd have them. Period. They'd have them already. You know what I'm saying? Something that I was going to say, I'm going to give this one out. I was going to say in a future video of mine, you know, the black community to the white man is a third world country. It's the same as when we go down to DR and we fuck all the women, and those men in that environment watch us fuck their women. The black community to the white American man is a third world country. And I'm sorry?
I said no doubt.
Yeah, their relationship to our women in our community is the same relationship we have with the Dominican Republic and all those islands that we go to and fuck around. So, like, of course, that's what it is, you know. And I think that there's this thing with that black men have where they think if they do this and they do that, the same relationship black people have with white people. Black men have this thing with black women. If I do this and I do this, my woman will respect me. If I do that, then I'll gain their respect and I'll gain their love. And I think we're past that. We're past that now. It's just like Gigi said, you know, at this point, if you know, if they're given all these things by the, you know, the dominant society and all that shit is taken away, what happens next? You know, do you come back to us, or do you look for the next thing? To be honest, I don't think the women will come back. I think that they will continue to play up to the dominant society to get back what they lost because they're mercenaries. You understand? But that's what it is. You know, so this idea that this racial loyalty and we're trying to build with these black women are past building. And I'm like you, Dr. Johnson, I'm in a few of these groups where these women are talking shit about black men and celebrating every, you know, black male shooting that happens, and, you know, bullet bags, and yeah, they ain't killing y'all niggas fast enough, and all of that stuff. I've seen all of that stuff. I know that, you know, the Deborah Coopers and the Alicia B's and all of that stuff that's on Facebook. I've seen it. And you know, the likes and the reposts and all of that stuff is not just the women that are posting it, it's the women who are reading. You read the comment section. They have swallowed whole the white man's you know, image of their own black men, regardless of what their personal experience with us is.
Well, you know,
they swallowed it whole. So
that's a sad thing, you know, that, you know, throughout the entirety of the American black woman's consciousness is the imagery, which is oppressive, that was created and fabricated by white men and women. That's a fucking shame, but it is what it is. And you know what? They can have it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like Red Man at this point. I'll be there. If that's how you. That's how I feel about it. I mean, fuck it. I'm not here. Well, I am here to. They can think what they want, but I know the truth. You see what I'm saying? So I know that we are a resource. I know that we're brilliant. I know that there's light within us, and I know the world is afraid of it. And I think black women are more afraid of it than any other demographic because, you know, they have been so self-deprecating for so long. I mean, because at the end of the day, man, like I'm just telling you the truth, man. When I see a lot of these women, man, I don't think they love themselves very much, bro. That's just how I see it, man. You know, the way they dress, you know, the way they wear their hair, the kind of body dysmorphic disorder they have. I don't think they really love themselves. I think that they really are enamored by these white folks. And at some point, you know, I mean, you can proclaim to the world that you're strong and you black and you pro this and you pro that. But at the end of the day, you know, I've never seen a group of people be so derogatory towards their men. And we're men who won. We fought side by side with women in order to gain the rights that we supposedly were able to procure. I mean, we've been there from the beginning. Slave rebellions, the Civil War, you know, the Civil Rights Movement, Black Power Movement. But at some point, they decided to go off on their own. Okay, well, you're on your goddamn own. It's us for us now. It just is what it is. That's why we need that black male agenda. Bottom line, we need our own agenda. And they can get mad about it if they want to, you know, but it is what it is. Don't get mad, play the game, get mad and change. Then you wonder why these motherfuckers call your names. You know what I'm saying? You wonder why they call you bitch. You wonder why they call you bitch. Bitch. It is what it is.
You took it
just remember, when they say black men don't protect, they're also saying unable. So all of the slavery, you know, the slave revolts and things like that. If a black man fails to protect a black woman, even, you know, while trying to, that's lumped in with black men don't protect. When they say they're unprotected, meaning, and what I wanted to say to Doc Johnson earlier is, you know, the things that happen to black men are viewed in context to how they suffer from it. So you understand what I'm saying? If your husband is killed, you didn't lose a husband, you lost resources, you lost protection, right? So and you also say, well, black men don't protect us. Well, it means they also can't protect you. So, you know, police shoot your husband is, oh, okay, well, now I'm unprotected. So it's like black men, like Malcolm X says, black women are the most unprotected. What's included in that is, you know, they're unprotected because black men cannot protect them. Even, you know, trying to protect them, you know, the protection can be removed by the dominant, you know, society. So if you fail to protect black women, you know, it's the same as not protecting.
Well, you know, well, you know, at the end of the day, man, you can't please everybody all the time, man. And I'm at the point, man, and at the age where I ain't seeking to please nobody but my goddamn self. So, you know, it is what it is. You ain't pleased. I'm like the black Eminem. I just don't give a fuck. And it's that point, man. That's where I'm at right now, man. I'm not trying to please anybody. I got my own standards, my own way of viewing the world. And if it's offensive, good. Because I've been offended. And I haven't said anything about it. And now you have to hear it. And it is what it is. So, you know, but at the end of the day, though, bro, what these women could learn if they wanted to learn was from the daughters of the Confederacy. I'm going to say it, and this is my last time, and I'm going to close it off. These men in the South who fought in the Civil War, they lost. But these white women knew that if they were to rebuild any modicum of the society that they had, that they would have to inspire and that they would have to encourage their men, despite the loss and the humiliation that they were subjected to, that they had to work together in order to get it back to some modicum of where it was. Black women, I don't know where they are, but if they don't get on code, hey, you just got to count them off as a casualty of war. It is what it is. You don't want to embellish. You don't want to honor. You don't want to inspire. If all you got for us is bullet bag trash, can't kill your nigga fast enough, okay, well, keep doing what you're doing. Let the doorknob hit you with a good Lord split you. I'll holler at y'all later. You know, I mean, I hate to say that because I don't really want it to be that way, you know, but I don't feel like I should be an obeisance. I don't feel like I should be a conqueror. I don't feel like I should have to offer fealty to anybody, especially when they have nothing to give me. You have nothing to give me. You broke as I am. You have just the same amount of stuff.
You broke as I am.
You don't have shit. I mean, the average black woman does not have a doctoral degree. I'm not saying that there aren't black women who do, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not trying to even come in and say that that's really actually indicative of anything other than honor related to the white dominant society. But at the same time, what the fuck can you offer me by way of intelligence, social progression, or political forward thinking. If you have nothing to offer in that regard, we just some niggas just running around fucking, which is like for a person my age is absolutely senseless and pointless, man. So it is what it is, man. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank you, Marcus, for coming in, and Dr. Johnson. I want to thank you for coming in, and man, for being the kind of men that will speak their minds and straight up, no chaser, and unapologetically, man. I love y'all for that. And thanks for everybody having joined us this afternoon. Doc, you got something coming up soon?
Well, my shows are Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, of course, on my YouTube channel, and I will be dealing with the black male political agenda in depth, and you will be coming up in that conversation a few times, Brother Gigi. So, yeah, look out for that Wednesday, and yeah.
Marcus, some short remarks on where they can find you.
All right, so I'm on there's a lot of guys in here that I can see that's on my friends list on Facebook already, but my Facebook is Marcus Aurelius. It's the same image that you see on the video. That's my profile picture on Facebook, and on YouTube I am Keep It 100. All right, because I keep it 100. I got videos up. Yeah, Mr. Meach, I can post a link in the comment section of this video right here. I don't have a problem with that, but it's Keep It 100, just the way you see it spelled there. So check me out.
All right, gorillas, go with aggression out here, man. Stay safe. Keep your heads up. One.
No doubt. Peace.
I know you player haters gon' hate, cause I'm at the finish line and I'm in the first place.